Okay, here we go with my breakdown of the Daniel Ricciardo audio from the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix fix. And we'll begin with what he finishes up with once the race is over, which is this.
Um, I'm glad I'm not a part of that. Whatever just happened, it seemed pretty fucked up.
Absolutely right, Daniel. So we're going to go through the audio from the moment Nicholas Latifi crashes, and we're going to highlight the authenticity of it or where there are glaring problems. Now, if this is the first one of these that you've stumbled across, the others are going to be on the channel. I'm in the process of uploading each of the audio feeds. So you're going to get a black thumbnail for the audio of the racing driver with their pit wall, with their race engineer, and that's uninterrupted. And then the white version of the same driver is where I will go through that footage and talk about it and break down what would be authentic in this situation and what isn't. Many fans of Formula One still do not know the purpose of the safety car rule, and the reason they don't know it is because they were lied to about it. Throughout that event, or throughout that safety car period, Martin Brundle, the expert of the sport, is lying to everybody and he's saying, oh, will they let the lapped cars get out of the way? I don't think it's mandatory, but that's usually on a wet day. And if so, how long will they wait for these cars to get out of the way of the race between the leaders? That's not the purpose. That's not the purpose of the regulation. The purpose is to reinstate sporting fairness to all competitors. When a situation arises which causes a safety concern in a Grand Prix, racing is neutralised. And if there's no lapped cars, all that happens is the leader is swept up by the safety car, and all the other cars catch that leader. And so what you end up with is the correct race order, all the cars in a line, first down to last, in the correct race order, and all of the previously built up advantages have just been wiped out. And so you're essentially, when that safety car pulls in, you're resuming the race from the scratch position. All of the built up advantages between all drivers get wiped out. Now, the regulation for exists for when cars have been lapped in a race. And what happens is, in this situation, Lando Norris was in 8th position at the time of the crash, and he was chasing Pierre Gasly. But because Hamilton had passed Lando Norris, but not past Gasly, Hamilton is swept up by the safety car. Norris has to stay behind Hamilton, but Gasly disappears off around the track and catches the back of the safety car snake. And that now leaves Lando Norris about a lap behind Pierre Gasly. And hence there is a mandatory regulation, this procedure that needs to be carried out once the track is declared safe to do so, that any car that qualifies to do so is released, and that safety car stays out on track for at least one more lap to give the opportunity of those released cars making it around the track to catch the back of the safety car snake, to reinstate this position where we've got a snake of cars first down to the last remaining competitor in the correct race order. All of those previously built up advantages between all competitors wiped out, and now we've met the condition in order to go racing again. Clearly they didn't do that in Abu Dhabi. Clearly, though, none of the teams are calling that out. The governing body of the sport, the FIA, in the form of their race director, is not on his own. Okay, he's sat in an office with at least 10 FIA personnel. We don't see the camera footage of what's in there. There's a camera in there, we see it earlier in the race. They don't show us what is going on in race control during that safety car window. We didn't see that. So that's footage that everybody needs to see. Who was there? Who had a gun to Michael Massey's head? What was going on there? They were breaking the rules of the sport. They were contriving that ending, and every team, all of those strategists, they know the rules and regulations of the sport. They base their strategy upon that. If you believe it's going to be a safety car finish, then you're not going to pit to lose track position. In the case of Daniel Ricciardo, it didn't matter in their eyes, or so they thought, because at the point in time Latifi crashed, he was in 11th position in the race. And therefore, he was already out of the points. Providing everybody finished that race, if it ended behind the safety car, it'd finish in 11th. The gamble was, well, if it is going to restart, we might as well put ourselves on the most competitive tyre, the soft compound tyre, to give us a chance of an overtake if we get a lap or two in. So they gambled on that, but in doing so, they actually lost out, because had he have not pitted and remained in 11th, then with Perez's retirement, he'd have finished 10th and got a World Championship point. But that didn't happen. They pitted him from 11th. In doing so, he dropped down to 13th, and that's where he stayed. So that's the way things work. Did he go down to 13th or did he go down to 12th? I might have got that wrong. He originally went down to 13th, and then with Perez's retirement ended up in 12th, I believe. So we'll go through that and double check. So I'm now going to go through the Daniel Ricciardo audio, and we'll break it down. So like I say, if this is the first one you've stumbled across, you can look on the channel at the other ones, and they will all be uploaded onto there. Blacks and then predominantly whites. And what we might end up with is, when you see this, it might appear as strips of white and black, or it might appear as a checkered flag. Who knows? Let's see how people's screen layouts are. See? Method in the madness. Right, let's get going. Oh no, Nicholas Latifi has crashed here at turn 14.
Safety car, safety car.
The reason why you hear it a bit like that is because the drivers do get a notification on their dash of yellows. So it's highly likely that Daniel Ricciardo would have seen on his dash yellows, and therefore he's already easing off. Although there is about a 4-second lag on the audio from when Daniel Ricciardo either receives that message or when he speaks. There's a lag, and that is so that if there's any swearing, that can be blanked out prior to it being broadcast to the worldwide audience. So, but it's there or thereabouts in terms of when we're hearing this and the actual time that these are actually occurring. You know, just bear that in mind.
Safety car driving, Delta positive, and recharge on is good. Daniel, the accident is on the exit of 14. Keep to the left in 14. Daniel, medium or soft? There is 5 laps to go.
Let's go soft.
Daniel, we're box.
Okay, same as Lance Stroll's race engineer. Good communication. He's informing Daniel Ricciardo of where the accident is on track and what he needs to do to best avoid it. So, has he got a clear picture of what is going on at turn 14? Who knows? Have each of these teams got access to the cameras at turn 14 so that they can see what's going on there and relay that to their drivers? Again, I don't know the answer to that, but clearly these teams are communicating to their drivers what their drivers need to do to best pass that section of the track. That would suggest that they can see what is going on.
Yep, box.
And the issue is, Martin Brundle and David Croft, the broadcasters for Sky Sports, they state that they can't, because later on in this safety car period, they claim, oh, is there a vehicle on track? Getting that car out of the way. can't see. If they can't see, what would that tell you? Because we've had comments in the other video saying, well, it's not Brundle and Crofty's fault. Well, do you think that changes anything? What's the who is setting the narrative then? Who is in control of presenting them with the footage that they must talk about? What is the important footage? Well, the important footage is what is going on at that location, how is that clear-up operation progressing, and what is the likelihood of that clear-up operation being done in time to enable these mandatory procedures to be carried out that would enable any kind of racing finish to this race. Because that's going to be the determining factor. It's nothing to do with tyres at this stage. Nothing. Tyres only are a factor if it's possible to go racing. What is going to determine whether it's possible to go racing? Well, that's going to be the progress of this clear-up operation. And if you're denying the commentators of the sport access to that information, well, you're keeping them in the dark, aren't you? This is F1 TV, the sport's own editors of what it shows us, both in terms of the images and the audio that it interjects with. So the narrative is being controlled. And if they are hiding it from Sky Sports, well, that's what they're doing. And people then have to believe that Sky Sports, Brundle and Crofty, they don't have access to that camera at turn 14. They can't press a button and call up the footage from that camera, or they can't request that from F1 TV. This is what we need to see. Show me that camera so that I can convey to the global audience this is what's going on there. But like I say, McLaren seem to know what's going on there. Aston Martin seem to know what's going on there. We'll carry on with the audio.
Daniel pit lane.
Launch map on, launch map. Launch map off, launch map off. We're racing to safety car line 2.
You see, we've got some clever cards going on here, haven't we? We've got Red Bull playing some clever cards by pitting Max Verstappen onto soft compound tyres. McLaren have done the identical thing. They've played some clever cards by pitting Daniel Ricciardo onto fresh soft compound tyres. How come we've got differing outcomes for competitors in that same event, having chosen the same strategy call? Clever cards, eh? Clever cards, they tell you.
Okay, Daniel, so the car ahead of you is Verstappen, ahead of him is Vettel, who stayed out, and then Leclerc. Keep to the left in turn 14, instruction.
Okay, so that message would have probably reached Daniel Ricciardo prior to him actually getting to turn 14. The message saying the car in front of you is Verstappen and then in front of those is Vettel and Leclerc. Well, if there's to be a restart, what needs to happen is the cars that have been lapped, which starting with Norris, there's 8 cars, of which Daniel Ricciardo is one of them. Them 8 cars need to be released. They need to pass the leader and the safety car, and then they will proceed around the track and attempt to catch the back of that safety car snake. So, Verstappen will not be in front of him. The car that will be in front of him on any restart will be Vettel. That's the situation. So, telling Daniel Ricciardo the car in front of you is Vettel, sorry, not Vettel, Verstappen. Well, yeah, okay, that's information, but that's not relevant to the restart condition. And let's see if he amends that.
And we have margin to warm front brakes.
Now, we do get long periods of silence on the communications. Now, whether there's audio edited out wouldn't surprise me. But what we also hear in other videos is the race engineer informing their driver which engine mode to be in or what adjustments to make. We're not hearing this all that often with the McLaren car. But there is something that's interesting going to come up.
Okay, red button available to avoid a split in front brake temperatures. The cooler brake is front right.
So there's a split in the front brake temperatures. One side is hotter than the other. And McLaren have a red button which allows you to, well, if that's going to level the temperatures of those brakes, what you're going to do? Heat one up so it matches the temperature of the other one, because you don't want to cool them down. We're told we need heat in these brakes for them to function at their optimum level. So you're going to heat one of the sides up so it matches the temperature of the other side. Well, how are you doing that? Well, you're asymmetrically applying braking force to those brakes, aren't you? Is this a remnant of Adrian Newey's tenure at the McLaren team with asymmetric braking devices on that car? You got the red button in the McLaren? Let me know what you think in the comments section, Team McLaren.
Yep, yeah, red button's activated. Just confirm that's working.
Yeah, that's working.
Yes, the red button is working.
And the split's gone, well done.
And then the split in temperature's gone. Magically, them brakes are the same temperature now. Unbelievable.
Okay, and again, keep left in turn 14. They're moving the car now. Keep left in turn 14.
They're moving the car now. So, they're clearly able to see what is going on in order to communicate this to Daniel Ricciardo. Is there a vehicle on the track getting that car out the way, Crofty? Can't see. Sky Sports can't see.
Understood.
Okay, Daniel, so there's 3 laps to go. This is P13. Ahead of you is Vettel, Leclerc and then Ocon. They're all out on old tyres. Vettel 31 hard, Leclerc 19 medium, Ocon 39 hard.
So he has not included Verstappen there, has he? So he's talking about the competitors that Daniel Ricciardo is up against that are directly in front of him. 3 laps to go. This lap that Hamilton is now on is lap 56. This is the key lap, so that these 8 lapped cars need to be released on this lap, so that lap 57 can be that mandatory lap performed by that safety car to give those released cars the opportunity of making it around the track and catching the back of this safety car snake. That is the only way that there can be any form of racing in this race. If these lapped cars cannot be released on this lap, then it's a safety car finish, because the earliest that the then can be released would be lap 57 and the safety car must remain out on track on lap 58. So it's a safety car finish. At no point is this made clear, and instead this is what we get.
Okay, understood.
Lapped cars may now... Oh, lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake. Lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake.
Okay. This is a common thing. At this stage, going down this straight between turn 5 and 6, this message is a common occurrence in each one of these videos, in each one of these audios. And often it begins, lapped cars will now... Oh, actually, no, they won't. The reason that they won't be allowed to overtake is there are still marshals on track at turn 14 sweeping debris off the road. We can evidence that, and I've evidenced it in various other videos. When you switch to Nicholas Latifi's in-car camera, it is on a crane, the car swings around and you can see there are men or marshals with orange overalls on the track sweeping. Therefore, it is not safe to release the lapped cars. That is the reason why they are not releasing the lapped cars at that point in time. There is clearly a desperation to do so. Clearly, race control know that those lapped cars need to be released in order for this procedure to be carried out in time. However, this is not the last opportunity for releasing these cars. It could be that if they get down to turn 9 and the track is declared safe, the sweep up has been completed and the clerk of the course has done his checks on the barriers and has declared that yes, everything is good to go now, we are good to go racing, I'll hand back to the race director, you can now carry out your procedure. Okay, at that point in time, the race director can then order those lapped cars to unlap, and all 8 cars it should be possible for all 8 of them to pass the leader in the safety car prior to the commencement of lap 57, and that would enable lap 58 to be a racing lap. But it's at this stage they make the declaration lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake. That is not an official message. The official message in the regulations is overtaking will not be permitted. It applies to everybody. It is easily understood by everybody. Overtaking will not be permitted. That applies to everybody. Put yourself in that situation. overtaking will not be permitted. That's quite straightforward, isn't it? You know that overtaking is not allowed. You just carry on following the leader. Lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake. Well, what does that mean? If I'm not lapped, am I allowed to overtake? If I am lapped, what's going on here? Are the cars that aren't lapped around me allowed to overtake me? It's an ambiguous message. It's not in the regulations, and yet the FIA pretend that it's a standard message, and they state as such in their official report after the event. It's completely made up, along with that banner that is displayed on the global feed. But like I say, there is a desire clearly at this stage, and it appears to be communicated to the teams, right, unlap now. Oh, actually, no, don't unlap now. The reason you don't unlap now is there is Marshals on the track.
So Daniel, your challenge will be to follow Verstappen through when he gets blue flags for everybody.
Why are you assuming that they're going to restart the race like this? Because you're not allowed to restart the race like this. You're telling Daniel that his challenge is to follow Verstappen through when Verstappen gets blue flagged. You cannot do that. You can't restart the race with lapped cars in situ. Look at where we are now. Directly behind Hamilton is Norris. Before Latifi crashed, Gasly was just less than 12 seconds up the road from Norris. Look at where Gasly is now. Oh, Gasly is nearly caught the back of the pack. Norris is now left about a lap behind Gasly. About 1 minute 30 seconds behind Gasly now. And you cannot allow a safety incident to skew the outcomes for the competitors in that manner. Bunching Verstappen up, closing those 12 seconds up to a lot less than 12 seconds, and yet making what was less than 12 seconds for Norris now extend to a minute and a half. Hence, there are mandatory regulations that need to be carried out prior to the resumption of any racing. The race got neutralised. Sporting fairness needs to apply to all competitors. And yet the McLaren race strategist, race engineer, whatever you want to call him, is proposing a lie. Your task now is to follow Verstappen through. And we'll just rewind that because it's a lie.
So Daniel, your challenge will be to follow Verstappen through when he gets blue flags for everybody.
Making that sound normal. It's not.
Okay, understood. Do you think...
And Daniel just is okay with that. Now, Daniel's an experienced motor racing driver. These regulations have been in place since the beginning of the 2012 season. Daniel will have experienced these situations numerous times.
We'll restart this lap.
It's still showing double yellows.
Daniel asked, do you think they'll restart this lap? We are, approximately halfway around lap 56? Lapping behind the safety car. They've not unlapped the lapped cars. And Daniel is asking, do you think they will restart like this? Well, you can't restart until you've carried out the mandatory procedure. That notification, lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake. Well, that is given when it's not safe for them to overtake. When it is safe for them to overtake, they overtake. You don't just jump to go in racing. You've still got to carry out that procedure before you go racing.
But it may do.
And the McLaren garage or the McLaren strategist is saying it may do. It may do. They're not going to carry out this mandatory procedure. It may start like this. With 2.5 laps remaining, they're suggesting that it may restart now. Ignoring what the regulations state. Ignoring that mandatory procedure. They're not calling it out, are they? They're not saying, no, it can't restart yet. This race cannot restart until you've been allowed to go through and you've been given the opportunity to catch the back of the pack to give you the chance of using those tyres that we just put on you, Daniel. You've just pitted for fresh soft compound tyres, and the only way you're going to have the chance of gaining places is if we'll restart this race in the correct manner. They're not saying that, are they?
Daniel, behind you is Stroll and then Sainz. So if we can make good progress, we may be able to avoid getting blue flags from Sainz.
Again, a totally fictitious scenario. This idea of resuming racing after a safety car period and immediately getting blue flags, no, that's not allowed. The only way that that would be allowed is if you got yourself lapped after that safety car had been on track for over a lap and a bit. Okay, once that safety car has passed that second safety car line for the second time, okay, or I think it might be the first safety car line, the initial safety car line, once it's past that for the second time, if you get yourself lapped at that point, you're not eligible to unlap. So then you're held in that position and you would get a blue flag at that point. But if you're eligible to unlap, which means you were already lapped or you only get yourself lapped within the first lap of the safety car, then you must unlap to restore sporting fairness to those competitors that are running. And he's presenting this notion of, well, if you can go fast enough, then maybe you won't get blue flags and you won't have to slow down or get out of the way of Sainz in third, who should be able to be challenging second by rights in this race. But no, there's 2 cars left in between second place and third place. That would be you, Daniel, and Lance Stroll. And with half a second gap between each competitor, that means that actually third place, with a half second gap from Verstappen to Ricciardo and half a second gap from Ricciardo to Stroll and half a second gap from Stroll back to Sainz, is at least a second and a half, if not more, behind Verstappen, when Verstappen is allowed to be just half a second behind Hamilton. Well, that's not fair, is it? In just one lap, you're now a second and a half behind second place. Your chance is not the same as Max's chance, is it? This has just been set up just for Max. You can see the safety car Snake passing turn 14. As it does so, and as Verstappen is going by turn 14, Marshals in orange overalls are jumping over the barriers. It is highly likely that the clerk of the course will still have to complete his checks to then hand the course back to the race director, having confirmed that the track is safe. Hamilton is about to go on to his lap 57. That will then become the earliest opportunity to release any lapped cars, the 8 that qualify to be released. And then the safety car is required to remain on track for a further lap, which is lap 58, meaning it is a safety car finish. Nobody ever says that. Those are the regulations. That is what must happen. Instead, this is what we continually hear from each and every one of these teams and their drivers.
Okay, safety car has stayed out. There's 2 laps including this one.
No shit, Sherlock. And Brundle will make the prediction because I think the safety car will come in at the end of this lap, and there will be one racing lap where you've not performed the mandatory procedure, you've not released those lapped cars. It's not allowed to happen. Where's the McLaren race engineer saying, yeah, now we're now on lap 57, Daniel, it should be a safety car. It will be a safety car finish now. As a lapped car, you haven't been released. Even if he releases you this lap, the safety car will remain on track for the final lap. So, yeah, it's going to be a safety car finish. It is what it is, mate. Do you hear that?
Safety car ending, red button off.
Safety car ending, red button off. What's going on there? What's going on there? So, 5 cars have been allowed past, and safety car ending. And it's ending, wow. It's not allowed to happen. Is there any surprise from the McLaren pit wall? Daniel's race engineer, is he surprised?
Daniel, they've allowed the lap cars ahead of us to overtake the safety car, but not us. There'll be one lap racing.
Okay, so I stay where I am.
Yeah, so stay where you are. This is a normal safety car restart.
Stay where you are. This is a normal safety car restart. No, it's not. It's far from normal. Hasn't been done like this since the start of the 2012 season.
Okay, so I stay where I am.
Yeah, so stay where you are. This is a normal safety car restart.
In fact, it's never been done like this, because it's never been that they've just released a few of them and held some back and impeded third from challenging for second. This isn't normal. So do not state this lie.
Okay, so I stay where I am.
Yeah, so stay where you are. This is a normal safety car restart.
It's not a normal safety car restart. Don't gaslight the population.
Recharge off.
If it was a normal safety car restart, do you think Daniel at the end would be saying, I don't know what that was, but that was pretty messed up? There was nothing normal about what took place. Nothing normal about what took place. Now, what I should have pointed out is earlier in that last illegal lap, at turn 5, which is the corner where Max Verstappen performed that late lunge overtake on Lewis Hamilton, Verstappen pushed Hamilton out wide at that corner, and had a car been slipstreaming Verstappen down towards turn 5 and then took a tight line around turn 5, he'd have gone past both of those cars. Now, Daniel Ricciardo was holding back. He didn't want to interfere with that race that was the race off between the two championship contenders. But that's not what a Grand Prix is. A Grand Prix is contested by all competitors that enter it. And if you're in third place in that Grand Prix, and it's possible to resume racing for a last lap, and you're bunched up like that, third place should have the opportunity to go through and overtake both of those two cars that are fighting each other and take the lead of that race. Carlos Sainz was denied that opportunity. Doesn't matter whether you think that was possible based on the compound of tyre that he was on, he was denied that basic opportunity. None of this was right.
Okay, buddy, that's the checkered flag. Let's have a recharge on, please. Recharge on. Okay, Daniel, so we finished P12 in the end. Obviously not enough laps, and with the other cars being allowed to go after the safety car, then that pit stop didn't help. Finishing order.
This is a strange silence because he says finishing order, and then we don't hear him saying what that finishing order was. So it does feel like some of the audio has been cut here.
Okay, yeah.
And so what is Daniel okaying? Finishing order, and then a long time of nothing, and then okay.
I got no idea what they did with letting cars through. Obviously, I wasn't really in that, anyways.
So you don't know what they've just done there because it's not correct. But yeah, well, I guess I wasn't in that race anyway. I was outside the top 10, so therefore it doesn't really affect me. No. But what if it did affect you? You don't care because it didn't directly affect you. What happens in this world when something does directly affect you and everybody around you just went, yeah, unlucky, it's not my problem. You're the one that got screwed over. Yeah, unlucky, that's just the way it is. And that's fine. People can shrug their shoulders, they can not care about it. But when it happens to you, then it's a different story. And it shouldn't happen to any of us. It should not happen to any of us. And that is why we need to stand as a collective and say, no, we are not going to accept this. You perpetrated a crime. You defrauded a global population. No, we are not going to accept this. And this is just an example of what is going on in this world in far many other facets of society. This stretches far beyond the sport of Formula One.
But it seems strange.
Yeah, it was a bit unusual. So Perez retired.
It was a bit unusual. Well, you told us that it was just a normal safety car restart in commentary there. In that message, not commentary, in your original message just before, and it's ending well. Yep, you're going to stay behind Max. It's just a normal safety car restart. And now you're saying, yeah, it was a bit unusual. It's far from being a bit unusual. It was entirely wrong. It was in no way in accordance with the regulations of the sport. And the best that you can say, oh, yeah, it was a bit unusual. What do you know? As it was happening, you weren't objecting to it. You were just going with it. Roll with what is happening and don't call out it for being wrong. Just go with it. That's your instruction, isn't it?
Daniel, so finishing order: Verstappen, Hamilton, Sainz, Tsunoda, Gasly, Bottas, Norris, Alonso, Ocon, Leclerc. Unfortunately, that pit stop at the end, which I think would have been a good idea, didn't work because they only let through some of the cars.
It didn't work because they only let through some of the cars. Well, the reality is it was a futile pit stop because it wasn't possible to go racing again. This should have been a safety car finish. Hence, we pitted you out of 11th position, and when Perez dropped out of the race, you would have been boosted up to 10th position. Had we not have pitted you, you would have got one World Championship point. We made an error in pitting you. They weren't clever cards that we played. Oh, but you want to say, oh, the reason why our strategy didn't work is because they didn't release you. No, had they released you and had they carried out the mandatory procedure, there would still be no race. You'd have still finished down in 12th position. So again, stop gaslighting the world. I might just do a special video on this race engineer.
Anyway, we're boxed now. When you get to the FIA, then we need to switch the car fully off.
Yeah, understood. Alrighty. Cheers, guys. I'm glad I'm not a part of that. Whatever just happened, it seemed pretty fucked up.
I don't think we need to go any further. It was. And yet the sport tried to play it off as being some confusion, as if all this pressure that the race director was under made him make an error under pressure, even though he had 9 colleagues alongside him that all know the rules. Even though we've got global commentators of the sport that know the rules with all their experience, were lying about the rules before the rules were broken. Even though we've then got 4 stewards who you can appeal to at the end of the race to say, the rules haven't been followed here, we need to reinstate back to lap 56. They invite Red Bull into that appeal that Red Bull had no part of being in and ask Red Bull what Red Bull think about the situation, and then they side with a completely different so-called interpretation, which is entirely invalid, of those said rules to validate what just happened. And I will do the breakdown of that steward's appeal again and just show you just how corrupt it is, because I've identified a few more things in that from the previous breakdowns that I've done. Sebastian Vettel next. Another interesting one. Another experienced racer that's experienced safety cars many, many times, and we'll see what Sebastian Vettel's reaction to that safety car was and the interactions between Sebastian Vettel and his race engineer. Thank you for your time.